president is coming up here on the north lawn of the White House, entering for the first time as president, right? Coming in, he's going to be changing, getting ready to go to the balls. Caitlin is obviously standing there. And I know, Caitlin, can you see them from where you are coming in?
Yeah. The first police car, Aaron, has just made its way into the north lawn of the White House.
Yeah.
You're seeing the entire motorcade come in. And I just want to say this is unusual. You know, I've covered the White House for a long time. Typically, presidents come in through the south lawn. There's more privacy and security. But on the day of the inauguration, there's the beast pulling into the White House. Two of the presidential limos that are pulling in, and there is President Trump riding in that one. Right there, we can see his outline as he makes his way. This is his first time being back at the White House since January 2021. A lot of his staff, I should note, has been here for a few hours, Aaron, including the chief of staff, Susie Wiles, who orchestrated his campaign. Elon Musk was seen here on the White House grounds earlier, actually going inside the West Wing at one point earlier. But this is the first time that President Trump himself has returned to the White House since he was here, obviously, briefly earlier for that meeting with President Biden, the coffee and tea that they had. But this is the first time he's being back since it's his White House and he has been sworn in again.
Yeah, and watching him get out of that car, the beast, and walk in, you will get, Kristen, he will get the salute. He is back.
He is back.
He is back. And that is you see that here. This is the visual manifestation of it, but that has been the tone and the feeling. I spent the day in that Capitol Arena. That is the way that his supporters feel. They are back. He is back.
In his speech,
literally,
one of the lines that really stuck out to me was he said, I returned to the presidency confident and optimistic. It does feel different than 8 years ago when it sort of felt like Washington was befuddled by what is this going to look like? And frankly, even Trump may not have known what levers of power do I have and how do I pull them to get what I want. He comes back in now knowing exactly how to get what he wants. And he's using those Sharpies on the first day to try to do it.
Jeff Zeleny starts us off tonight. So, Jeff, let's start with the pardons and commutations. It's some 1,500 in all. There are about 1,580 convictions.
Anderson, an extraordinary scene right there. I mean, after whitewashing the history and the events of January 6th, really ever since it happened, President Trump, in the first hours of taking office, essentially tried to wipe away and did wipe away the charges with a mass group of pardons and the commutation of 14 sentences. So we now have our question answered if he is going to make a distinction between the violent offenses that we saw with our own eyes, that were seen around the world on January 6th, versus the people who just happened to be sort of standing around. He treated everyone the same. So that certainly at the end of this day, he was speaking out and had a rally earlier.
We should point out, I mean, we're talking about the leader of the so-called Proud Boys, Enrique Tarrio.
And the Oath Keepers.
And the Oath Keeper, Stewart Rhodes. Stewart Rhodes, I believe, had an 18-year sentence. Enrique Tarrio had 22 years. I believe Enrique Tarrio is already in the process of getting a release, or at least has been, is going to be getting out. I mean, that's extraordinary. He also continued to spread lies that the FBI was behind this or involved in this in some way, as well as outside agitators, which, again, is just not the case.
It's not the case, and it's likely a good thing that his Attorney General nominee, Pam Bondi, has already had her confirmation hearing, because this certainly would come up in that. And this is something that the Justice Department will have to deal with it. But look, this is we got an incredible look at his first look at the Oval Office once again. He said he was so happy to be back. It's one of the most beautiful places. And then in an also extraordinary moment in a series of them, he opened the drawer of the Resolute desk and pulled out the note from President Biden and sort of joked, should I read this aloud? It said 47 on it. Of course, he is the 47th president. But Anderson, just a litany of executive orders, executive actions. But on immigration, those also are very serious. He, again, has been talking about that all day long and throughout the campaign, largely picking up where he left off and declaring a national emergency, declaring the cartels a terrorist organization, leaving the door open to special forces going into Mexico. So on a variety of fronts, making good on what he's been talking about he would do on day one. And now, of course, the the levers of government will have to react to all of this. But clearly, he's very happy to be back in the Oval Office, and so much different than 8 years ago when he walked in for the first time. Now he knows exactly what he wants to do.
Yeah, Jeff Zeleny, appreciate it. For more on how those January 6 pardons could play out, I want to go to CNN's chief legal affairs correspondent, Paula Reed, and I think we're going to show you a live picture at some point outside the detention center, where, if you've been watching our reporting over the months, as Donnie O'Sullivan has repeatedly reported, there have been vigils pretty much every night by relatives and friends of people who were convicted of crimes on January 6th at the Capitol and have been serving time. They have been gathering every night, and obviously there's a celebratory mood, as you can see. Paula, how immediate is the effect of these pardons? Will people be released tonight? Will Enrique Tarrio be released? Stewart Rhodes?
Yeah, it's possible. I mean, they're in the process of being released, so that is possible because the pardons and the commutations, their impact is immediate. Now, if you didn't get a pardon or a commutation, if your case is still pending, those cases are going to be dismissed. Now, I'd expect that would likely happen tomorrow because today is, of course, a federal holiday. Yesterday, I was speaking with one of Trump's legal advisors, and I asked, well, why are you dismissing the cases? Why not just give them pardons too? And the advisor suggested, well, that giving them a pardon suggests that they are somehow guilty. So we would prefer to dismiss these cases. But it's interesting, I will note that those commutations, the folks whose sentence were reduced or eliminated, instead of getting a full pardon, those are just going to be reviewed. So some of those people still could get pardons. And in speaking with Trump advisors over the past few months about how they were going to make good on this promise to pardon people who were involved in January 6th, but in the words of President Trump, not give relief to those who were, quote, out of control. What kind of process are you going to implement? They told me they didn't want to do the usual case-by-case assessment because it would take too much time. This is something they wanted to do on day one. So here we're sort of seeing a process, small p. They're going to review these commutations, so there could be more January 6th pardons to come.
So just in terms of the 14 commutations, I mean, a commutation can mean a lot of different things. Just it could be, a reduction of a multi-year sentence to serve just another year or whatever, or it could be a complete, time served and you're out. Do we know for all 14?
Well, it's suggestive right now that this is as broad as possible. So I would expect that the people on the commutation list, based on what President Trump said, and he did get a few things wrong. It's been a long day for him. But based on what he said and what we're reading, you'd expect that their sentences will be eliminated. So they would be released from jail, but they would still have that conviction on their record. But those are being reviewed, and we're talking about people like Stewart Rhodes. He's one of the people who received a commutation, leader of the Oath Keepers. He was sentenced to 18 years in prison and was found guilty of seditious conspiracy by a jury. But as interesting as the commutations are, the people who received pardons are also quite surprising. You already mentioned Mr. Tarrio, but the group of people who already received pardons, remember Trump and Vice President Vance had suggested that they were not going to give clemency to people who were violent offenders, but the group that got pardons includes individuals like Julian Cater, who assaulted a U.S. police officer, Brian Sicknick, and later pled guilty to assaulting an officer with a dangerous weapon, Devlin Thompson, who hit a police officer with a metal baton, and Robert Palmer. He's the Florida man who attacked police with a fire extinguisher, a wooden plank, and a pole. So as Jeff Zeleny was saying earlier, it's probably a pretty good thing that his Attorney General nominee has already had her confirmation hearing, but his FBI pick, Kash Patel, and even his Deputy Attorney General, Todd Blanche, will likely face questions about these pardons.